This is the Out of Time Film Podcast, where your hosts Tom and John discuss everything from blockbuster films to TV and games like there's no tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to the Out of Time Film Podcast. My name is Tom and as always I'm joined with my co-host John, and this week we're talking about The Flash.
Yeah. For context, we literally just watched The Flash. Like an hour ago.
Yeah.
We finished it and I just feel like emotionally drained. I'm a bit sad, felt a bit betrayed by this film. As you can suggest by the title of this video, I'm just really sad. What about you?
I'm in a very similar position. I think betrayal is a good way to put it, because the hopes for this movie were just off the charts. Like the initial reactions and all the word of mouth, like people like Tom Cruise and Stephen King were saying that it's incredible. James Gunn, everyone's saying that this movie is so incredible, and I was really looking forward to it. And I think even now there's a lot of people who do like this. But before we get into this, I know that the title suggests that that we're really heartbroken by this movie, and then that is true. We are really devastated, and I think for us this is worse than we could have imagined. But at the same time, I want to make it very clear that if you liked this movie, good. I wish I liked this movie. I really, wanted to find something in this that I loved, and I just didn't. And that's just my opinion. That's fine if you don't share it. But it's pretty emotional.
Yeah, I understand if people really thought this is a really good Flash story. Hey, that's your opinion. So don't worry if you're feeling like, oh no, they're talking about the film really trash. These are just opinions end of the day. They don't really change the timeline or anything. Oh my god.
Yeah, we try to be positive and keep everything open. So we don't want to bash it from a perspective of everything around it is terrible and people who like it are bad. Like none of that. And we welcome the discussion. So please if you disagree with us, tell us, let us know in the comments. But yeah, we will be discussing full spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Full spoilers, yeah.
Yeah, so The Flash. Briefly explain the plot for those who don't know.
All right, so worlds collide when the Flash uses his superpowers to travel back in time to change the events of the past. However, when his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, he becomes trapped in a reality which General Zod has returned, threatening annihilation. With no other superheroes to turn to, the Flash looks to coax a very different Batman out of retirement and rescue an imprisoned Kryptonian, albeit not the one he's looking for. And that is the gist right there.
Yeah, that is indeed. I don't know where to start, so let's just what did you think of the movie?
Terrible. Listen, I have to get off my chest right now. I feel depressed by this whole film. Like, as I was saying earlier, this is like one of the worst films I ever seen. This may come to a shock to you all, but man, I just felt like I was trapped in that cinema forever. I just wanted to see something really good, but no, it was just... I heard great things like what you said about Tom Cruise, Stephen King, but man, this felt like just a painful thing to watch. It really, really distraught me.
Yeah, like when we were walking out of the cinema, it was the most depressing thing ever. It wasn't like a particularly full cinema, and we were just walking, trudging along with the walk of shame. It was pretty tragic.
Yeah, and the fact that the cinema went really quiet, like that is the most quietest cinema that I ever heard, like after watching this film. No one was talking, no one was even talking about in the after credits, this post credits, oh, what do you think about the film? We didn't even talk. We didn't even talk about the film when the credits rolled. We were just sat in silence. We were just trying to process what we just watched, and it was just oh my god.
Yeah, I feel like the whole thing, it didn't feel like anything. It didn't feel like a particular vision. It didn't feel like it had anything to say. It felt like it was written by a committee, by a studio. It felt like it'd come from notes saying we got to get this character in or that character in, or we've got to harken back to this or that, or wouldn't this be cool and that be cool, and not in the good way. I feel like this is the worst example of that kind of filmmaking that evokes evokes the past and is so caught up with nostalgia. You know, I have my problems with something like No Way Home, but I feel like No Way Home, at the very least, managed to justify a lot of the cameos and the multiversal stuff. This movie, The Flash, in which the marketing has been dominated by Michael Keaton's Batman, his presence in the movie is just completely pointless. He has nothing to say thematically or for the plot. His character is just hollow. It's constantly either he's spitting out a line from the past or he's just kind of being in a clunky action scene. There's nothing to him. And I didn't find any enjoyment in that. Or indeed any of the other stuff that they are bringing back. It almost felt like they're dragging stuff back, kicking and screaming, things that do not deserve to be in this movie.
This somehow got a 9 out of 10 on IMDb.
What?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the cast. So let me tell you about, we're bringing back Michael Keaton into this film, and that is a huge thing, right? You're bringing back a huge character, an actor who played Batman in 1989, and it was such a really interesting actor to portray Batman. But in this, it just felt really out of place. There wasn't really anything to justify his character arc, really, if you can call it a character arc. He was just there this whole time. He was trying to help Barry, but I don't know. It didn't really link well with the other characters. Like Supergirl, for example, she had a really strong presence, but that's quickly died down when she only appears for 10 minutes in the film, and it didn't really generate excitement for me. I was like, oh, well, here she is. She's really cool. Sasha Calle, she's great as Supergirl.
Oh yeah, standout of the movie for sure. In the limited time that she actually gets. I hope that with the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie, they actually bring her back, because I think she's got a lot of potential. But even so, she shows up and they're like, hey, Supergirl, you can help us, right? And she's like, no. I don't know humans anything. No. And then she leaves. And then it's like, okay, that's interesting. It's an interesting angle. What is she gonna do? How is she gonna come back into the fight? And literally she just sees Zod and she's like, oh, I guess I need the fast boys then. And then she goes back to them and she's like, yes, I will help you. And it's like, why? Where did that decision come from?
Yeah, where's the motivation? There was no real motivation in this film, apart from Barry, the original one, because there's two versions of Barrys in this one, which is so insufferable in this.
We knew that there would be two Barrys, two Ezra Millers. And, whilst I'm on the subject, I just want to say, having Ezra Miller in this movie and having it releasing now is such an odd thing. And it's not something that you can really get past in the film. All of Ezra Miller's crimes, you can't really enjoy them as a protagonist. But I don't really want to dwell on that too much, but I do want to make it clear that even with all that context, two Ezra Millers just didn't work. The second one is supposed to be 18 years old and is talking in this very much bro kind of way, yeah man, it really doesn't work. I just don't understand why they didn't just have another actor doing it. I mean, it would have just saved on the VFX they needed to put the two Ezra Millers together. It was just such a bizarre choice to have those two in it.
It really took away from everything, really. There could be really some interesting concept into this whole time travel story, but no, two versions just felt really comedic, but it just felt really insufferable. I just couldn't really enjoy what the film was trying to give out, but these two characters took away from that. It just really made it not worth watching. It's two Ezra Millers and they don't really complement the characters, really. Isn't it supposed to be really about the Flash? But no, in itself, it was just a time travel story. I mean, it was referring to Flashpoint, which is a really decent comic. I thought that it had really emotional beats. I thought that was great. But when it's adapted into that, nothing worked. Nothing at all worked from that. And I'm annoyed that Iris West didn't get enough screen time in this as well. Iris West is one of the biggest characters for Barry. You could have seen that relationship. That'd been really interesting to see, but everything failed.
Yeah, it's crazy that this Flash movie is so not bothered with even being a Flash movie at all. So much of it is more bothered with time travel and we've got to fix these things, and none of it kind of really fits into what the Flash is. And obviously this has gone through such a laborious production history where directors are on board and then they leave and then the script gets rewritten and now it's here, and it just feels like a shell of any kind of Flash story. It's mad that the Flash TV show, which did Flashpoint for one episode for 40 minutes, did it so much better than this, in that there was emotional stakes and ramifications and an exploration of Barry's relationship with his parents, whereas in this one they try and keep that thread throughout of Barry and his mum, but it really just kind of falls apart. So much of the movie is instead dedicated to other things, we've got to rescue Supergirl or we've got to find Batman, and there's a whole extended sequence of young Barry's roommates where they're like, we need to find Aquaman, and they're like, Aquaman, is that the super mermaid? And it's why are we wasting time with all this? Like, what does this have to say about any of it, any of the themes, any of the characters? Nothing.
There wasn't really a central theme. I know it was supposed to be like looking back into the past, but you can't change what really made you. Like, don't let tragedies define you. You gotta move on. It was trying to be this comedy movie. It wasn't really working at all. It didn't really focus on the family aspect as much. I mean, there was one really good emotional scene with, Barry meeting his mother at the end of the film, talking about like how proud that mother would be for Barry. I thought that was a really good scene, but there wasn't really anything to drive this theme all across. Like, it could have been really emotional, like a really interesting flash story about like how would he deal with this different world apart from the really weird stakes, like, this different version of Barry and then Zod. By the way, Michael Shannon as Zod in this film, it was just heartbreaking. Like, he wasn't really giving it all as Zod. Like, in Man of Steel, he was amazing as Zod. You could really feel the tension between Zod and Superman in that film, in Man of Steel. It was really interesting to see Michael Shannon in that. But this, it just fell apart, and you couldn't really find out who was the villain in this. It's just a mess. You can't really find something in this film. Yeah, that's my thing. You can't really find anything.
Zod just kind of feels like he's half asleep the whole time. His inclusion is just so surface level. And, considering that in my opinion, I'd say Zod is one of the absolute best comic book villains. And we're bringing him back and he's just an empty shell. Even Michael Shannon in the promotion for the movie is talking about how the multiverse movies don't have the same kind of like depth to them and are all, just about kind of like smashing your action figures together. And I think that becomes so like evident throughout the movie and the way that they handle most of the characters. We talk about Supergirl and Michael Keaton's Batman being shallow, but then you think about like Wonder Woman, just like in Shazam Fury of the Gods, Wonder Woman just pops up and is like, hey guys, here to help. Anyway, see you later. And Ben Affleck's Batman, who again barely has any character and barely resembles his character from the other movies, even though this movie acknowledges things like the Snyder Cut and various things like that, things that normally I'd be like, oh, that's amazing. It really just kind of bastardized this character. It reminded me of Justice League. You don't want your movie to remind me of Justice League. I don't want to ever think about that movie ever again.
Yeah,
but I was sat there and thinking, this looks like and feels like that kind of bastardization of these other characters. And, I'm not saying that those characters can't grow and evolve, but none of it feels natural. None of it feels like it comes from anything other than, as I said earlier, studio notes saying, yes, we need to have a CGI Christopher Reeve and Adam West and Nicolas Cage Superman. Why? Why would anyone want that?
I wanted to cry in that scene.
I groaned so many times.
Do you know that Breaking Bad meme of like, you can see Bob Odenkirk's face? That was
it just looked like that.
The CGI was god awful in this film. Like, I just could not get into the film because the CGI was so distracting. It was just
it looked
poorly
terrible.
made. Like the suit for Barry's. It was just so annoying to see. The suit. It was just
like the CGI when it's used to this level is important, and it looking like that constantly throughout the film, even in the marketing, not like they're choosing the best shots in the marketing, it all just looks so distracting. The final battle just takes place in the desert where, every time like somebody lands on it, there's no like cracks in the floor, there's no like weight to any of that. When you think about how good CGI is in other movies, like that really makes an impact. Something like Spider-Verse, which, all its animation and all the visuals, have such an impact and mean something. In this, I can see sometimes what Andy Muschietti is trying to do, but it really doesn't mean it. It just like the whole thing just really breaks you. I tell you what, at the end of the movie, when the credits play and they play the song "This Too Shall Pass" from OK Go, which I really like that song in general, and the lyrics being "Let it go, this too shall pass," me literally just depressed, just like, no, I don't want to let it go. This is like, what? It just absolutely it breaks you to think about those kinds of things. The film, it barely takes any of it seriously. The best scenes are when they do take it seriously, but there's so much of it that's just caked in really like awkward comedy. And again, just reminded me of Justice League. It reminded me of just 1,000 rewrites, which are telling the filmmaker to do something that they don't want to do. At least you can say that Andy Muschietti is happy with this movie, but I really don't think it amounts to much.
I just can't believe I watched this film, especially that this film had a really terrible story. There wasn't really a villain in this film. There's this dark version of Barry or the Flash that he appears only, I'm going to say, a minute in this film. Like, that's the whole screen time that I can think of. It was just so jarring to see another version of Barry, which was this nightmare version of him. It was a kind of interesting concept because he was obsessed trying to save Kara and Batman in this event that was inevitable. You can't save them. And that's an interesting concept. But no, he gets killed off very quickly, and we don't really establish that, this craziness of this nightmare Flash. I was just so disappointed.
He
Like,
just crops up at the last minute, like,
yeah.
with no build up to the fact that young Barry will become this kind of monster. It reminded me of Savitar in The Flash season 3. But the fact is that Savitar had a whole season built up. He had episodes where we explore what would happen to Barry if he loses this person in his life, the dark turn that his life would take. Those things are really important in that season. But here, as you say, it's like a minute of screen time, which amounts to really nothing because Barry never learns a lesson. He changes time at the beginning, everything gets messed up, and then he tries to change time at the end, everything messes up. And so then he finally tries to reset things, and then he's like, oh no, I can do one last time change by changing the bloody tomato cans. And then, guess what? Everything changes again at the end. And it's like, this guy never learns his lesson. Stop time traveling, dude.
There isn't any character arcs in this. Nothing. Still, zero. He doesn't learn. He doesn't learn from the mistakes. He just like, oh, guys, I can time travel again. Yay, let's go and save my dad.
I love The Flash. I love his comics and I love his TV show, like, a lot. And I really, really wanted this movie to be great. And I still think, they shouldn't give up. This movie doesn't look like it's going to do well financially. And I don't think that they should take that as a sign that The Flash won't do well, because we deserve a really great Flash movie. And again, if you like this movie listening, great. That is all I wanted, was like this movie. And I hope that one day I can come back to it and say, it wasn't as bad as I remember. I really, really hope that. Without expectations, that has happened to me before.
Yeah.
But some of the things that this film does, some of the priorities that it has, all these cameos, and yet they don't bother with John Wesley Shipp or Grant Gustin, two of the pioneers of the Flash on screen. They don't even bother with them. And I'm not saying that they even had a place in the story, but just the fact that they went for like these CGI Supermen over them, it just doesn't, it's just so confusingly odd. The things that they do, all these stories that feel like they lack so much emotion when, I've seen them done with so much more emotion in the past. And it's just a film that breaks you. There's just so few redeeming qualities. There is no better way to describe how this movie makes you feel than in the post-credit scene. Just the image of Jason Momoa flopping into a puddle and just curling up in the water.
That's how I felt. That's why I turned to you. I turned to you. I was like, this is how I feel right now.
Yeah.
I
Especially
have
after
no
watching those
joy.
credits in silence, just, letting it all just kind of wash over us, just like, oh. And then the final scene just being that, it's just like, this movie just feels like such a waste of time, honestly. And this is the DCEU's final movie before we move into the DCU. And this is after a string of not great DC movies with Black Adam and Shazam and even DC League of Super Pets. Like, a year ago, we had The Batman. And, I was thinking that DC is going to absolutely crush it. And then each movie has just been kind of a stinker. Like, it's crazy that out of the last three, the best one has been Black Adam, which was just fine. Like, that's not fair. I really hope that we can look up for DC because, Marvel's just had two amazing films back to back of Spider-Verse and Guardians. And I really hope that DC can, really give us something that is worthy of these characters of this universe. I believe that James Gunn can do that, but I'm scared. The whole thing scares me because even The Flash was just not good. And I don't want that to be the precedent that we set. Please, God, there's just so few things for me to enjoy in this movie.
Yeah. I hope people enjoyed it though.
Absolutely.
For me, I just sat in there just in silence, not enjoying anything but the CGI. And oh yeah, I saw a recent surge of Flash discussion on Twitter. Do you remember that bit when Barry saves the babies? One of them were in the microwave?
Yeah, it was like the nuke in the fridge scene from Crystal Skull. Just like this baby just being shoved in a microwave and Barry being like, yes, this is how I will save the child.
This film just does not exist. I'm just flabbergasted.
From the opening moments, I was scared. The CGI, and there was a really cool piano riff in the music. Like, the score was decent, and there was a really nice piano riff, and I was like, oh yeah, here we go, we're back. And then you see Barry running, looking like he's made of clay, and the whole thing, and I'm just like, oh no, oh guys, oh dear, it's over. It's over. Pack it up,
It's
guys.
over.
It's Jova. It's one of those that just makes you feel terrible about everything. Every life choice.
Yeah, I really don't have anything else to say about this film. I cannot believe this film actually exists. I just felt very distraught. It wasn't really justifying Flash making a really cool character. Instead, Quicksilver was even a better character than the Flash in this entire film. No,
Yeah, and Quicksilver never did anything in his X-Men movies.
yeah,
Oh, I really hope that, I think one of the most depressing things is this is the last time we're going to see some of these characters. We're never going to see Ben Affleck's Batman again, or Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, or Michael Keaton's Batman, or maybe even Sasha Calle's Supergirl. And if we do, because obviously, nothing's off the table at this point, but if we do, it's not going to be in the same way. And I think this is such a depressing wet fart for the DCU, which I think deserved more than that. Considering that when this movie was supposed to come out last year, it was our most anticipated movie, and now we're here. Just a real
Can't
fall
believe
from
it.
grace from what this movie could have been.
yeah.
What do you give it out of 10?
Can I say 0?
I mean, you can. I'm sure you can go for it.
I'm gonna give this. Wait. I'm gonna say 1 out of 10 because
Okay.
Sasha Calle.
Yes, no. I'll give you that. She was great. I'm gonna go 3 out of 10. I don't even know why. There are very small things that I liked, which I think do amount to something, but at the end of the day, it's diminishing returns.
Yeah, it's been such a weird whiplash from going Spider-Verse to this.
Oh, 100%.
Such a weird whiplash.
I really hope the next time we watch a DC film, we have something positive to say. I really hope Blue Beetle is good, because it's just getting depressing at this point. Thank you everybody for listening. If you enjoyed, give us a like and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can follow and give us a 5-star review if you think we're worthy. Next week, we are doing Asteroid City, which is going to cleanse everything. Wes Anderson is going to make us feel so much better about just our lives, and I really hope that's great. And you can send us an email at outstimefilmpod@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on Asteroid City and ask us any questions, and we'll answer it right here on the podcast next week. And you can follow us on Instagram on outstimefilmpod to see our incredible thumbnails from Zain Afzal, and on Twitter for more thoughts from me, and on our new TikTok page where you can see edited clips from the podcast, which are also on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. I'm sure there will be many great edits from this episode. And you can find links to all that in the descriptions below. Thanks to Jones-Meyer for the excellent theme, and Ronan Phillips' vocals as always, and I think that's everything.
Yep, that's it. Take what you're given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.